Have you ever wondered how a simple idea, like making your community safer or fixing a problem, actually becomes a federal law? Well, it's a heck of a journey, full of twists and turns. So let's dive in and break down exactly how it works. And this quote right here, it really gets to the heart of the whole thing. The process isn't built for speed. It's built on caution, because you have to remember, a single law can change millions of lives. The whole system is designed to be deliberate, to make absolutely sure every proposal gets looked at from all angles before it gets the power of law. So where does it all start? Well, every single law begins as just a little spark, an idea. But these ideas, they don't just pop up out of thin air. Nope, they come from the real world. An idea for a new law can come from just about anywhere. Seriously, it might be a local problem that needs a real solution, or a brand new challenge from technology that nobody saw coming. It could even be a concerned citizen just talking to their representative. And of course, you've got experts and advocacy groups who are always bringing important issues to the table. Okay, so once a member of Congress decides to take one of these ideas and run with it, they introduce it as a bill. And this is super important to remember. At this point, a bill is just that, a draft. It's nothing more than a formal suggestion that's about to start its very long and very difficult journey. Once that bill is introduced, it enters what I like to call the congressional gauntlet. This is where it faces its first and, honestly, its toughest trials. It's got to survive some serious scrutiny in both chambers of Congress. So in each chamber, that's the House and the Senate, the bill has to clear these 5 big hurdles. First, it's introduced. Then it gets sent to a small group of experts in a committee. If it actually survives that, it's debated by everybody, and then finally it faces a full vote. And if it passes, it has to do the whole thing all over again in the other chamber. Now that committee stage is absolutely critical. This is where a small group of lawmakers really, and I mean really, digs into the details. They ask all the tough questions. Does this thing actually solve a problem? Is it practical? What's it going to cost? A ton of bills never even make it past this stage because the committee just decides, you know what, this isn't strong enough to move forward. And here is one of the biggest challenges in the entire process. It's not enough for the House and the Senate to just pass similar bills. No way. They have to agree on the exact same wording. We're talking every single comma, every sentence. If there's even one tiny difference, they have to work it out until they have a single identical text. This is a fundamental check in our system. So if a bill somehow manages to survive both chambers of Congress in that identical form, it finally arrives at its last stop before becoming law: the president's desk. This is the final gatekeeper. The president has 4 moves they can make. The obvious one, sign the bill, and it becomes law. They can also veto it, which sends it right back to Congress. But then there are 2 more interesting options. If the president does nothing for 10 days while Congress is in session, the bill automatically becomes law. However, if Congress goes home for a break during those 10 days and the president hasn't signed it, the bill just dies. That's what's known as a pocket veto. Now, a presidential veto feels pretty final, right? But it's not always the end of the line. Congress has one last play. If a bill is important enough, both the House and the Senate can vote to override that veto. But the bar is incredibly high. They need a 2/3 supermajority in both chambers to make the bill a law without the president's signature at all. And believe it or not, even then, the story keeps going. Once a law is on the books, government agencies have to figure out how to actually implement it in the real world. And down the road, the courts might be asked to interpret what the law really means to make sure it lines up with the Constitution. See, there are checks and balances at every single step. All of this probably sounds incredibly slow and complicated and maybe even a little frustrating. But that brings us right back to our main theme. This whole system was designed to be slow on purpose. So why, right? Why would you build a system with so many roadblocks? Why make it so hard for an idea, even a really good one, to actually become a law? Well, the answer comes down to this idea of balancing speed with wisdom. The people who framed the government were genuinely worried about the danger of making laws in a moment of panic or passion. This slow, careful path forces debate. It gives everyone time to hear the evidence, to test the arguments, and to filter out the bad ideas. It's a system built to try and ensure that only the most necessary, well-thought-out proposals actually become the law of the land. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. In our super fast-moving world today, is this intentionally slow process still the best way to do things? Is it a vital safeguard that protects our democracy from making hasty mistakes? Or has it become a roadblock that stops us from making urgent, necessary progress?
That's the big tension, right at the heart of how our laws are made.